Hello and welcome back to Session Zero. I'm Lincoln L. Hayes. This is the second season, I guess. I don't know, kind of just flying by the seat of my pants here. So what I've got for you is a series of new episodes. These I'm calling one-on-one shots. I'm going to sit down for a one-on-one interview with some of my favorite folks from the D&D community and ask them more direct questions than I could get to on the panel episodes. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my first guest. You've seen him on this show 3 times. He was on the first episode, he was on the 7th episode, and he was on the 12th episode. He also introduced me to the game of Dungeons & Dragons. Welcome back to the show, Chris Destar D'Amato.
Wow, it's 1-1-1s all around. It's firsts, it's one-on-one shots. This is great.
Look at you.
I'm honored and flattered.
You're a pioneer of my show, if that can be such a thing.
Great.
So, Chris, you have been playing D&D for almost as long as we've been alive.
Yeah, too long.
And not only have you been playing D&D, but you've played a plethora of game systems over the years. Mm-hmm. Which edition or system did you start playing, and what was your progression from there?
So, my first experience ever with D&D was 2. Second edition, and I didn't really delve too deep as far as understanding the rules because the DM at the time was just sort of like, tell me what you want to do and I'll worry about all the rule stuff. You just tell me what you want to do. Here's your spells, here's your whatever, and I will handle the rest. So I didn't really know too much about the edition necessarily, and then a couple hours in I was hooked forever, and it became a matter of, all right, so what am I going to do? So I need to look this up. What edition are we learning? Second edition. Okay, great. And then I went to the bookstore, and 3rd edition had just come out. Mm-hmm. So 2nd edition books were not around. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to learn a thing. Are people going to do this new one or the old one?
Right,
and this was also like just before the internet started getting really big either. So I wasn't sure, I wasn't able to look up, who's playing what's the deal here. But I sat in a Barnes & Noble and read the first 2 or 3 chapters of the 3rd edition book and said, okay, I can do this. And I bought it. And I started, the first thing I did, I remember I went home, opened up the book, started drawing a map right away. I got right to it. I'm like, I want a DM, and I think my friends will like this, friends that haven't played it before. And I was, so I started technically on 2nd edition, but 3rd is when I really started digging in, and that was like my home system, I guess, if I had to pick one. From there, it progressed to various different things. 3.5 made a couple little improvements, and there were a lot of things in 3.5. In particular, one I became known for in college especially is this guy right here. It's a Star Wars revised core rulebook. Yeah, it is nice. It's a little too prequel-centric on the cover for my taste, but that's
Wasn't that
discussion.
A terrible time to be a Star Wars fan? When the prequels were out and every piece of media was so focused on that, and you were just like, but yeah, what about the other ones, guys?
I know. And this is a whole other rabbit hole to go down, honestly.
New show, the Star Wars rants.
Yeah, but man, I remember there was a time I was in I forget what museum it was. It might have been Moving Image or something, but they had a whole Star Wars room, and I was looking at it wistfully, and this is somewhere between 2008 and 2010, and I said, man, oh man, I wish we could have Star Wars without all the baggage. Mm-hmm. Star Wars back. Just get Star Wars as we knew it back without all the nonsense and half the fan base hating it. And then I thought Disney would help that, and whatever anyone thinks of the Disney films, no one can say that the Star Wars fan base is not divided.
It certainly was not a Band-Aid. Not what the Band-Aid that we wanted anyway.
Yeah, no, there's still so much stupid baggage attached to Star Wars. It's annoying, but whatever. We're all fans. But yeah, so I became known as a Star Wars guy, especially because my DM style, I love to climax my stories in these massive situations where the party kind of I'll cut back and forth cinematically between different things happening in different areas, and Star Wars lends itself really well to that. You have
For sure.
you have the final battle of a campaign, and you got people up in ships, you got people on the ground trying to destroy the shield generator, and then you have the Jedi off fighting a Sith somewhere, and my style has always lent itself to kind of these large scale cinematic style battles, and so Star Wars always lent itself the format of Star Wars lends itself well to that. Excellent.
What have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced playing these different editions and systems?
It's not so much, learning something new is always intimidating, especially when you get entrenched in something, and it's so easy to just pick up a system that and just play a game.
Right.
So the biggest obstacle is because I'll learn new game systems any day of the week. I find I'm a bit of a numbers nerd. I enjoy rules and different styles of play and exploring that kind of thing. So I guess my biggest obstacle and fear anytime I delved into a new system is, will my players take the time to learn this? Or are they going to be like, what is this? Give me what I already know.
Right.
Now, it turns out to be an unfounded fear. I mean, most of the time, if someone in my group proposes something new, we're all kind of on board to at least give it a try. But these books are that's a lot of reading, man.
Yeah.
That's
and it's not a novel. It reads like an encyclopedia.
Right. Exactly. And there's always like a couple points where you're like, wait a minute, what? You have to keep referring back to the index, and then there's. It's like it doesn't all make sense until you get it all in context. Like they'll start throwing out terms before they really explain what the terms are, and you're like, wait a minute, what are they talking about now? Combat round, what is DC? What all this stuff that people who are uninitiated wouldn't know, and then it kind of but whatever, people want to play, so you're gonna learn it. I'm exploring a new thing right now. I'm actually converting. Because 5th edition is sort of my home edition, although the more I play 5th, not that I have issues with 5th, I think 5th is still far and away my favorite, but we've had 5th around for a little while now. It's not as fresh as it once was, and I have a couple issues with late game 5th edition that we can get into if you want, but what I'm doing now is I found this gem. It's a WWE,
oh my goodness.
WWF. Yeah, it's a wrestling role playing game, and it was it's not good. I'm not, no offense.
It's not good.
No offense to anybody who made this, but it's like it's 3.5 on steroids. It's like there's so many.
Boy.
Every roll you make, +5, -2, add 3, -2. It's like. No. This is a wrestling game. You want to body slam people and jump off the ropes. You don't want to be, So what I'm actually doing right now, I'm actually kind of spending my summer adapting this slowly to 5th. I have a whole thing that I'm creating a 5th edition version of a wrestling RPG. But because two of my big loves, D&D and pro wrestling, I have to take a crack at it and create something that's because the idea has always intrigued me. But I read through the book and I'm like, how could they get this so wrong? It's such a fun idea.
What have you done? Well, if you need a wrestler for your game, friend of the show, John Van Luling, is a huge wrestling fan, and I'm sure he would love to get down on that.
Oh, fun.
What are 3 things from your favorite editions or systems that you wish were part of the others? Like, what's your favorite thing from 3 or 3.5 or 4 or 5 or Star Wars that you wish the other systems would, just borrow?
None have been perfect yet, right? That's kind of the idea. It's D&D, and games are always a work in progress, and there's things about some that you like and some, that whatever. I think they're trying to strike a balance. You could really do some amazing things with feats in 3.5 if you knew what you were doing. I mean, you could, to the point, in fact, this I think is why they went so far in the other direction and did the skill trees or the talent trees or whatever they are in the different classes for 5th. I liked that degree of customization. You could almost break the characters.
From what I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, if you knew what you were doing with feats, I mean, I played a high-level... recently, actually, over quarantine, I did I had two buddies who wanted to do Star Wars. I hadn't done Star Wars in a long time. And there is a 5th edition style Star Wars RPG out there that I actually really liked, but they wanted a little hit of nostalgia too, so we went into the 3.5. And they wanted to do a high level, because it was just two of them, Sith campaign. And so I ran them as like two eager, evil Sith. First of all, running evil games is a lot of fun. It presents its own challenges, but that's another story. So I, in their role, when you roll in like high levels, this Star Wars or even 3.5 with all the feats and the stuff and the Force, I mean, they're adding like 30 to some of their rolls. It's insane. We're hitting numbers of like 42, 50, opposed strength checks of 42 and 45. It's like, are you? Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. I love that they, so on one hand, it's like you got all these crazy cool things you can do with the feats and Force abilities, but, at a certain point, it's like, why even have the dice? You're getting into numbers. It's like 50. The only reason there's some checks that the only reason you would roll is to see if it's a critical failure. Right. Because it's like if you have a plus 30 in pilot, what's even the point? Yeah. You're going to succeed unless you have a stroke in the cockpit and so some of the numbers got a little high, but I like the customization. Whereas in 5th, there's less character breaking, but somehow, and I don't know what this is, I haven't been able to pinpoint exactly why this is, but somehow in the high level, because I've gotten a few campaigns to pretty high level in 5th, it feels like you're DMing the Avengers. Yeah. Like you just can't beat them. You can't beat them. There's no... They hit a certain point, and it's like, unless you actually break the rules of the game or put a god in there or do your own homebrew monsters, once the party starts getting up in that 14, 15 territory, you can't kill them. Not that the point is to kill them, but it's harder to challenge them. So
I'm only in a 9th level game right now, and I have that trouble of just like, well, shit, what level creature do I need to throw at you guys for this to not be a 2-round encounter? Yeah. Yeah, and we don't even have the 3-5 min-maxing that, was available at that time.
Yeah, so I don't know what's to account for what accounts for that. Maybe the abilities are just really good. I don't know. I haven't been able to pinpoint exactly why that's the case, but a balance, like 5th is still my favorite, but there's still a balance somewhere to be found between all of these concepts. I want to see a little bit more customization, but a little less game breaking. Some kind of balance system. I forget which system it was. There was a system I used to play that had a flaw balance. It was like you had attributes and you had flaws to balance them. And for each attribute you took, you had to take an equally devastating flaw. I wish I could remember that's breaking my balls right now that I can't remember what system that was. But it was like, okay, you can, take a really awesome resistance, but by taking that, you have to take like an addiction to something or some kind of like for every great thing you get, you have something that's really debilitating. Now that's what the core stats are supposed to represent. I have a great character in my standard 5th game that I'm playing right now, long campaign that's been going for a couple of years now actually, where one of my characters is brave and noble and a very strong fighter, but man, is he stupid. And he plays the stupidity very well. He's just an idiot, and he makes the wrong... Yeah. He makes and the player is good, because the player will make choices that he would not normally make. I mean, that's what role-playing is. But, so the core abilities are supposed to represent that to an extent, but I don't know if I would consider it's quite sufficient. I think it needs a little bit more specificity. There needs to be more challenges, and I don't quite know how to do that, but I'm sure someone smarter than me is working on it.
Philip Krogmeyer, frequent guest on this show, mentioned last season that he felt like, and he had read, that a lot of people consider Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and some of the new source books that are coming out to kind of be like an unofficial 5.5. Have you had a chance to look into any of those books?
I haven't. Have you had any chance to look at them?
I have read all of Tasha's, and I've read all of Candlekeep, and as of recording, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft just came out today. And I was reading over that. And there's a bunch of new subclasses. There's new patrons for warlocks. There's a bunch of really cool new stuff in there. And a lot of the flavor, at least of Tasha's, is, hey, you know those like established things that you've had forever, magic missile, chill touch, like all of those spells that kind of have their description and they're fine, but they're a little boring. They're like, flavor it, do whatever you want, make it your own. And I respect that. They've taken what players and DMs have already been doing of like, we know that this is a guideline, so I'm going to take it the next step. But now it's actually in print of like, here's our permission for you to take it to the next step. And here's a couple of ideas from people who are super smart and good at writing this stuff.
That's interesting. Yeah, here's the thing. 5th is close. 5th is good enough that if they keep... I think the idea was to do this because... Let's face it, they're all in business to make money, so they want to sell as many new books and things as possible. I don't think they need to necessarily come out with a new edition. I just think, by design, they're going to keep supplementing and coming out with new things, and so that's good. I haven't read these books. I'm gonna write that in and get on that because I'm always looking for cool new things, but no, I have not actually checked those out. I've been stuck in my own
understandably
bubble right now.
I highly recommend getting them digitally on D&D Beyond, and then you don't have just more books, because books are great and it's great to have when you're playing and stuff, but when you just need to read over something, read it on the phone. It's great. All right, so last question. Off book. Yeah. Get ready. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
If next year they say 6th edition, here it comes, or even 5.5, but we're going to come out with a new edition, what would justify to you releasing a new edition? What changes could they make to really step it up a notch? Because you would know the differences between 2 and 3 and 3.5. And you played some 4, but you didn't like it, as I recall.
Dabbled, yeah.
And
dabbled.
Now you're 5. So you've seen the progression. Hello, Miss Kitty. You've seen the progression from the different editions.
Take this question, Miss Kitty?
What do you think is the logical next step?
I think it would take quite a bit, in my opinion, to justify a new edition, simply because 5 is close, and it would as much as releasing countless new supplements feels like a money grab. It would almost feel like it's like when the comic books just reboot the universe over and over every 3 or 4 years. It's like, why? Why are you doing this? To get new people on? Yeah, I get it, and that's important. You want to draw in new people, but at the same time, it's like, it would feel 5 is good, and 5 could be improved, but again, you can do that with supplements. So for them to flat out back to the drawing board, new edition time. I would say you would have to either, to justify that for me, completely back to the drawing board on the basics, and I mean try something totally new, and I mean down to like 6 core stats new. Like let's go back to the basics and revamp the entire thing and try something. So it'd either have to be that, or something that works around or in different genres than the fantasy setting. Like this, it's not a new edition because it's based in 3.5, but I used to play this a little bit, which is D20 Modern, and they have like future and past and various different things like that, and it's like, so it would have to be like, we're D&D and we're making D&D, but it's like D&D future or space or Western. Now again, those could still be supplements, but I would want to see something very different for them to go to an all-new system. Just back to basics drawing board, or it's like, we're doing an Old West theme for this edition, and we're going to incorporate playing cards and things like that, so... I would want them to either toy with genre or basics.
That makes sense. And even toying with genre, like you were saying, feels more like a supplement or like a spin-off.
Right.
than a whole new thing.
Campaign settings and all that. So I mean, the system is not the story, right? It's just kind of a
the nuts
guideline.
And bolts.
I would want to see them take if they were going to do it, I would want to see them take a lighter touch. Make the rule book smaller. Really, ultimately, the dice should just be about things that will succeed or fail. And, the dice represent fate. The dice represent the unknown, the random happenstance of life. So really, it's people sitting around a campfire telling a story repurposed, except instead of a fire, it's dice and paper and pencils, or in the current scenario, computer screens. So the more we get back to the core of that, I was shocked. I played, and this was like, I was deeply entrenched in 3.5 and beyond at this point by the time I ever played an original, like, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game. But I remember we were all like, because especially coming off of 3.5, we were all like, holy shit, there's no rules here almost.
Yeah.
There's so little guideline. It's just kind of, it's meant to be a game of the imagination at its core. So yeah, if you're gonna scale back. Create here's a great, okay, here's one. Here's something even more specific I would be okay with. Create a system that gives you a template to create your own spells, and don't give any spells. Don't give any specifics. Like here's
that.
How just like give us some kind of like grid or way for people to build their own unique spells. They're already kind of moving in that direction with the flavor. So if they were to do something like that and make magic kind of more mysterious and unique to each individual user, that could be cool. I could get behind that.
Yeah, that would be really fun. And as a relatively new magic user, the ability to just be like, well, I want to do this. And like, okay, that fits within your skill set. See if it works. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like, I cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter. It's like, I want to make this guy piss his pants. Like, okay, how would you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the best part of the flavor. That's the best part of the flavoring of everything, because as the DM, you can just say, I will let you try it. Tell me exactly how you want it to happen. And then you put the onus on the player.
Exactly. And what that would also allow is, you can create your own... Oh, I have a church on my corner. The bells are going off. You're probably going to catch that in there. It's okay. What that'll also allow you to do is you can create some sort of cost for really powerful spells that don't necessarily include a spell slot. I for some of the lower level spells, most campaigns I've played in generally ignore or just kind of take spell components for granted. It's like, oh, you have a little spell kit, you drop in your spider legs, and boom, here's the magic, whatever.
Yep, same.
But for the big ones, there needs to be a cost. I personally don't like resurrection, like just a true resurrection spell. That's just not something I because it takes away the finality of death, either for NPCs or the players.
Right.
Now you have undead. Maybe there's some kind of cursed comeback where you come back, but you're less than you were. You're hollowed out in some way. You've lost something. I'm okay with something like that, but the more powerful the spell, the more it should cost, and I don't mean just like a spell slot. It should
levels of exhaustion,
like
HP.
If you want like a world breaking spell, create a way. Give us a way to create it, but it really has to be like, you get like, maybe you can reverse time, but you can do it like 3 times ever. Mm-hmm. And each time each time it like sucks something out of you. You look more and more like Palpatine the more you cast it, or whatever the hell it is. But
I mean, Mercer's created Dunamancy, so we have some time magic now. And it's funny, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about is in the new supplement. So it sounds like you're on the same page with Wizards of Ghost. There's a new
I need to get
subclass,
current.
the Undying or the Reborn. Basically, you die and you come back, and then you're a playable character, but you're like a phantom. And you can continue playing on. And it looked really cool.
I like stories like that. I have a character in my campaign now, actually played by Jordanhugh, who's a good buddy of mine and has been on several of your episodes, who is... His backstory was he was a level 20 paladin, like Kingsguard to the Elvish king. Top level guard, top level soldier, top level paladin, level 20. And he was cursed by the main villain of the campaign. One of his elvish familial blades was shattered and embedded into his body. And he started the game as level 1. And he's just like, has these scars and this blade embedded in his body. And every once in a while, he'll just start bleeding from an orifice. But he's slowly regaining his power back. It's been a hell of a fun thing to watch. I like stuff like that.
I mean, that's total video game right there. Of like, you do the tutorial level and you're like, oh, this is great. And then you lose all your gear, you lose all your companions, and you're level 1 again. You're like, fuck.
Yeah.
I was so good in that first level. Anyway.
They would have to do... Yeah, if they were ever going to do like a good Superman video game, they'd have to do that, where like you nerf them and then build them back up. But yeah, it's absolutely that kind of thing. I actually just started a video game for PS5, Returnal, which is like one of those games where you die and you lose everything. So it just really sucks. You just go back and you play the same loop over and over. It's very fun, but yeah, off topic, but very cool. But yeah, that's the vibe. That's the vibe.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Chris.
Oh, dude, anytime. Anything for Session 0.
That's what I like to hear. Not sure when this is going to come out, so whatever evergreen plugs you may have, you can throw those out for the folks.
Well, for those who have watched my previous appearances, I have the Information War. It's filmed, it's shot, it's in the can. We're in post-production. That should be coming out later this year in some form or fashion, whether that's on some kind of hosted website or whether we're going to try to do a festival thing. So there's a lot of variables as far as when it comes out, but that's all shot and done. Keep an eye on my actor pages for that. It's the Chris D'Amato on Twitter and the Chris D'Amato on Facebook, the Chris D'Amato on Instagram. I don't post very much about D&D, but when I do, it's usually a funny meme, or I'll probably brag once I've converted wrestling into a 5-0 thing, so you can probably catch me there. But it's mostly just me putzing around with my cats and promoting my acting projects. Also, the Sopranos podcast is my other passion project with Jordanhugh and a good buddy of ours, Paul Mancini. The three of us, 3 Italian Americans, breaking down The Sopranos episode by episode. We're really killing it right now. Our numbers are insane. I've put no advertising into it, but the Sopranos fan community have really embraced us. They're really happy with the podcast, and they've been kind of talking us up on the various social medias, so check us out there at the Sopranos Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and at Sopranos Podcast, on Twitter. And follow us there. That's a fun little thing to get on, and I appreciate the platform, Lincoln. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming back on. Paul Mancini watches our cats when we travel. He's the best.
Yes.
I'm Lincoln L. Hayes, at Lincoln L. Hayes on all the socials. You can follow this show at Session 0 D&D Show. Gonna have more of these episodes coming at you eventually. It's summertime. It's difficult to track people down, and it's warm in here, hence no jacket. So thank you, Chris, and thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on Session 0.
Yay!